Well, hello there. Welcome to Talking Craps, episode 19. My name is Jay. Hey, why don't you sit down, relax, go grab your laundry, something to do, fold it all up while you're talking to us. Maybe if you're laying in bed right now, you can listen to our soothing voices. Maybe it'll calm you down, send you to sleep. My name is Jay. You can catch me on social media at Casino Dealer Jay. And my co-host, as always, is...
Hey, it's John. My Wi-Fi has gone wrong today, so I got to do this on an iPad. So thank you for joining in. One thing I asked that if you can do, sign up for Jay's channels. He does some amazing stuff. So sign up for his YouTube and things like that. It really is some of the stuff that you probably won't see anywhere else, especially in Edmonton right now. So if you have an opportunity, sign up and see some of the cool stuff, or even take part. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for the shout out. And our special co-host today is
Mike. Once again, the resident guinea pig here. So I'm glad to be here. I too am having some technical difficulties, so I'm on my phone now. If I'm coming through clear and everything, but
or you talk really, really quiet.
Am I talking quiet?
Well, maybe you're a quiet person. Who knows?
I doubt it.
So
Yes,
before
we've always known. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, Mike's always been softly spoken. We've all known this about him over the years. He's ever so soft-spoken, Mikey. This is true Mike. He's blaming technical difficulties, but he's actually a very soft-spoken gentleman.
I am. I'm shy. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for jumping on, Mike. Sorry, you know what? Before we introduce our special guest, how does it feel losing 2 championships? Like, it's unfortunate. I feel bad for you there. You had the Paigao championship and you lost it, and the blackjack one was so close and you lost it.
Yeah, but that's okay. What goes around, I'll get back.
Come back for the rematch. Okay, sounds good. All right, so we have a very special guest today. Actually, this was requested by you. One of our 3 platforms today, the platforms that we're streaming on right now is the Casino Dealer J YouTube channel. So hello everybody that's subscribed. And my Facebook channel, as well as the Casino Industry Canada channel, who has requested, most of you have requested our special guest. And without further ado, we would like to welcome, finally, to the channel, Wyatt Mcnabb. Hey!
Hey!
It's long overdue.
It's nice to be able to talk to everybody instead of trying to type at everybody, because I know they can't see me typing and I have to wait till somebody posts my comments at the bottom. So it's going to be nice to be able to actually talk and be heard by everybody.
And not be heckled too by your spelling errors and mistakes. So.
Oh yeah. My fingers are too old. They don't catch up to the brain. So that's what happens when you get to the advanced age that I am.
But hopefully some of your friends who are equally advanced age can come on and heckle you too.
Oh, I'm sure I'm going to have a few people here saying some rude comments, and I'm looking forward to it.
But to be honest, though, I think the people you like the most say the meanest things, right? So it might be your best friends coming on and going, Wyatt, you're this.
It's always endearment. Like, I've been out of the industry since 1999. I was in AGLC for a year after that, and some native gaming for a couple of years after that. But I don't miss the industry. I miss the people. I really do miss the people. And last week when you guys were talking about the great fun you used to have with Chris, like I remember so many nights just like rolling in laughter so much that you just it was just the greatest job in the world at that time. So
cool.
Had a lot of great times, a lot of great memories.
Well, that's great to hear. Wyatt, for the people that never had the opportunity to work with you, how did you?
The lucky ones.
How did you get started in the industry?
Well, I started as a 17-year-old at working at Klondike Days, basically, uh, at outside on a money wheel. They needed people to go work on the money wheel, so my mother and my aunt were working in the gaming industry at the time. So they said, "Oh, come on, no one cares. Like if we say you're okay, they'll hire you." So it was a great job for 10 days during Klondike Days. Outside on the wheel, money wheel, we used to work for like half an hour, get half an hour off. There was like 4 people, I believe, and it was kind of a tent scenario where it was like a little kind of kiosk tent, like a carny tent, outside the main casino. So started in 1974, believe it or not. And the next year they figured, oh, he's a smart guy. Let's put him on roulette because we'll teach him how to deal roulette. So I was taught how to deal roulette before any other game, which was fun. I think there's a lot of fond memories back there. The Silver Slipper, the Golden Garter, and the Sportex. We had 1 year in the Sportex, I think, and 1 year in the Agriplex where they used to show the cattle. Basically, it was a pretty disgusting place to have a casino. But as we got bigger, they had to expand. The Sportex was my favorite. It was so hot in there. It was basically a curling rink in the kind of the northeast corner of the grounds. It's gone now. It's been gone for many years. But it was such a hot building. And I remember dealing my first year on roulette there. There was a guy that we trained together, and his name was Jack. And I won't mention his last name because it's not nice to mention people's last names. First day on, he gets sick, like before the first customer even comes in. He goes over and we're standing there. He's as white as a ghost. And the first customer comes in to our game and he goes over to the garbage pail and just hurls into the garbage pail. And of course he said it was from the heat, but I know he was just so nervous about dealing roulette that it was a funny little incident that happened. But I've been around almost as long as casino gaming in Alberta. Like, as I was mentioning to these fine gentlemen before we started, the first casino in Alberta was in 1967. And it was at the exhibition, and it was an annual fair thing. I don't think it lasted 10 days, but I remember also they had a competing casino at one time at the Kinsman Fieldhouse at one time too, if I remember correctly. Someone will probably correct me on that too, but they had a casino at Northlands and a casino at the Fieldhouse at the same time. I'm sure if Nikki was here, she'd tell me all about it. So she always reminds me that my memory isn't so good. So,
so Wyatt, when you first started in casinos, was there it wasn't like an actual casinos to go to? Were they just moved from like location to location?
Well, the first ones I started working at were during the summer fairs, the Klondike Days. Mm-hmm. But the first actual location that they had as a semi-permanent place was it was the Northgate Entertainment Center on 97th Street. And the casinos were 2 days. There was about 4 different companies that had the 2-day casinos. So you could work for a company like Alberta Bingo Supplies, and then the next day somebody else would have the casino. So they'd tear down the casino and store all the tables in the back. And that was a really interesting place to have a casino at. It was basically a dry cleaning place. So, and you could smell the chemicals from the dry cleaners. But it was kind of like a semi-permanent place. And they had casinos in other places, like a couple of hotels would have casinos. Capilano, I think, had casinos. Sherwood Park had casinos at the one hotel up there. And just kind of spawned from there. And the kind of semi-permanent casinos, like the portable casinos, they got transferred into like road casinos, where I'm sure a lot of people here have heard about the legendary road casinos up to Grand Prairie and Fort McMurray. where they would basically have a weekend casino event, and we would take all the equipment up there, set it all up. A few people might party during the weekend, so the dealers were sometimes not in the best of shape, but yeah, they all seemed to make money for the local charities.
So Wyatt,
And I even had a casino in a place called Hilo, Alberta. And you can look up. You can look that up to see where that is.
that sounds an awesome place to have a casino.
Oh, it
Two
was.
ways.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting to say the least. I won't get into the details of that one, but then some fond memories from Hilo.
Wyatt, one of the things that, sorry, Jay, I didn't mean to, I'll just jump in a sec. One of the things that, like, Jay and I, we've talked about, and I think one of the reasons why Jay started this was because there's generations of people who've worked in casinos, and some of us haven't worked together, right? Like, this is a perfect example. Like, you know, I worked here, and I never worked with you, but you worked for a long time. Can you say one thing that you experienced during the early days of casinos that people in casinos today would be like, no way, that never happened?
Well, we used to be able to actually do the pay and take thing, and I know that's kind of a thing you can't do anymore. You have to you would basically do some math in your head and actually pay people and take their money, and you could actually be a person. Like, we have some great dealers in the past that actually have personalities, and they're entertainers. Like, they were entertainers, and like, people used to love dealing with them. But getting back to the Northgate Entertainment Center, the casinos used to start at 4:00, and they used to have a rope across the barrier. And there's a former person that used to run the casinos by the name of Barry, and he would go and play a William Tell overture and drop the line, and people would go running across the barrier to get a table. And there used to be a guy, he had polio, his name was Nels. He had the 2 canes, and he would be like just crawling to get to a table. Like, it was so ridiculous. Like, it was so comical now that you just can't imagine to see some guy crawling across the floor to get to a table. But it was so busy that if you weren't there at 4:00, you didn't get a spot.
So when what were the hours then? So you used to do 4 until when? Like, when did they close?
4 till midnight was generally, and 12 to 12, and it was 2 to 12, I think, on Saturdays. And then they moved it to 12 to 12. And when I was going to university, that was a great job because you didn't start till 4:00. So I'd get out of school, go work for 8 hours, go home, and I arranged my classes around it. And there was a lot of students at the time. You know, the casino at that time seemed to have a lot of, I don't know, it's going to sound really bad, but a lot of single mothers, people with other jobs, because it was a good kind of secondary income. It was pretty well almost always cash money, really. Like, so it was, you know, the tips were like fabulous at those times, but not so much now. Like, the tips were probably like 65% of your money at that time. So you could really survive off just tips alone.
I think in Alberta.
Go ahead.
Sorry to cut in, but I think we've talked about this before. I think as a part-time job, casinos have always been like a really good job. You know, like, you can, especially for like students or not just single, but I mean, if they are, that's all good. But I mean, like, as a secondary source of income, right? Because they're always really flexible, and I suppose they have for decades. Where it's like, okay, well, when can you work? When you can come in, and you can fit this work around your schedule, right? So it's always been a really good subsidiary kind of income for people, right? And I think it's, even today, it's the same way, right?
Yes. Well, because there was different companies, like, you probably know some people that talk about the time books they used to have. They'd have like a little day timer, and people would get stamped when they're working. Like, they'd have a little day timer. You turn it into, used to be a position called a timekeeper's position, where they would actually do the bookings and keep track of all the time. And they would stamp your books and tell you when you're working and where you're working. And it was interesting to keep those up. And I also remember the times when in roulette when we had to, the pit bosses had to have a calculator to figure out the roulette payouts, believe it or not.
So Wyatt, how were the games back then? How many games were there when you were?
It was
working?
very limited. We had blackjack and roulette, and that's pretty well it.
So how were the players on the roulette table? Because from like when I was talking with my brother and I was talking to people that were in the industry before me, they were telling me that the game has changed so much over the years.
Try having 25-cent roulette chips where people would buy all 200 chips and they would bet all 200 chips every spin. So you'd have these mountains of like 15 high on straight ups and like 10 highs and the calculations were just wild. Like 2,000 payouts, like just insane.
Wow.
Why I trained back in Cardiff and we had 25p, which is the same, and we had the same thing where people. We had 12 roulette, right? So it was always really busy, and we used to have people, like I said, they would buy in, and every spin, no matter what came in, they'd be like, "I want all color," and because it was a privately owned, and we had lots of tables, some people had more than one color. It was crazy. So you'd be like, "Okay, it's 425. He wants all color." We're like, "Okay."
Yeah, yeah.
But he's
no cash, no cash
Yeah.
chips. Give me all the chips.
Yeah.
Give me all the chips.
But the games were amazing, though, don't you think? How to deal to those kind of action is insane now because in it, you never see that anymore.
Well, they just don't let you bet that much anymore either. Like they would give people ample time to bet every chip, and now it's like they spin so fast that you can't bet all those chips.
I remember when I was a trainee, I walked on a table. I didn't know who this person was, and he bought in and whatever. And I didn't realize he bets 200 chips to spin, and I was super nervous. And I got on there, and I was like, "Okay," boom! I spun the ball, and the guy threw a stack of chips in the wheel. He's like, he goes, "I have 160 chips to put on. Stop doing it!" I was like, "Oh!"
Yeah.
And the pit boss just laughing. I was like, "Oh, I have no idea."
Yeah, it was just insanity, organized insanity. You'd have like 10 people betting 200 chips every spin. So, and people today can't understand how the tables looked at that time. You had no idea where the numbers were. Every position, every bet was covered with chips. Like there was very few places and it would really piss them off if somebody did forget a number and they didn't get anything back. They'd be really annoyed. And I think it really taught people how to chip real fast. Like you learned how to stack those chips faster than light speed, I think, because you just needed them so fast.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. I think the game's a little bit different. I think mucking is a lost art. I don't see a lot of that happening anymore. So, yeah.
With the chipper champs and the automatic roulette things, I think they kind of went the wayside. They just like sweep them all in and let the chipper chip them. But mucking is like, it was an art back then. Like you could basically help your stacker so much, like just by getting all the chips in.
Yeah.
I think it's like a lot of those skills on not just like roulette, but a lot of different games over the years have been lost. It hasn't. I think Jay, to his credit, wanted to kind of establish this kind of chat that we do, and even the Facebook group to kind of like share some of the experiences and the knowledge that was learned over like literally generations, right? That people who are not doing it now should listen to someone like yourself who spent like decades in casinos, and nobody's going to see 25 cents like with 10 people playing $200 a spin, right? It's like nobody's going to see that. So I mean, some of the things and the stories and the advice you can tell people, I mean, it's lost now, right? Because nobody in the industry has seen this.
Well, I still remember my games manager's test from way back when. One of the questions is, what are the one-eyed jacks? And which way are they facing, right or left?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, there's really insane questions. Like, you got to remember, these are all regulators and ex-cops that that didn't understand what the theory behind gaming, and they would come up with questions like that. And the person who did it actually went on to run Casino de Montreal, and his name was Ron S. And I'm sure a few people know who that is, but he was original gaming. Was it Gaming Commission back then? It was the Gaming Commission back then, I think. And he was in charge of like regulatory, and he had some really interesting rules and regulations. But great guy, nice guy. Best night in Montreal I ever had was when he entertained myself and Brenda Farian at the Casino de Montreal. It was I think the wine bill was $1,200 that night or something. So, oh yeah, we had like 10 or 11 different courses of wine, from like aperitifs to ports to everything. Like, and it was at the restaurant, I think that's called Colors, Couleurs.
Wow.
I still remember the dessert. It was a chocolate mousse cup with everything was chocolate. The cup that held the mousse was chocolate, and the spoon was even chocolate. So you ate the whole thing. It was
that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
in Montreal. If you've never been to the casino there, it's a very elegant James Bondish type casino, or at least it used to be. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been there in many years.
Mm-hmm.
And you contrast that with the Fort Garry Casino in Winnipeg. If there's some, and John, you may not have known what the Fort Garry Casino was. It was in the hotel in Fort Garry on the 7th floor, I think it was. You had to go up the elevator to get to the casino. And they had a very restrictive dress code. Men had to wear ties, and women had to wear specific types of clothing. They wouldn't let you in. It was like they tried to make it like a giant James Bond type scenario, very elegant and upscale. But I still remember sitting in the lobby waiting for Howard one night, and this bum comes walking in, and he's like dressed in hobo clothes basically, but he whips out a tie out of his pocket and throws it around his neck and doesn't even tie it properly. So he's got the tie on, so they had to let him in. But it was just ridiculous.
It's kind of like those signs where they say like no shoes, no service. They don't really care what the shoes are like. You just have to wear shoes.
So
Yeah.
So Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, so you were talking about the games manager exam. And I just wondering, like, what were the biggest type of rule changes you've seen through your career from when you started?
Well, I don't know, the biggest rule changes, like mostly procedural stuff, like to allow certain games in. I should probably tell you guys are all going to hate me because you're all craps guys. I'm the person that brought craps into Alberta. So the first T's and C's for craps were just horrible, and I was so embarrassed by them. Everyone telling me, how did you come up with this? How did you come up with this? But my story is that when they asked me when I was at the AGLC to bring craps into Alberta, do some research and prepare a report for the board, like outlining why we need craps in Alberta. So the first report was like 52 pages long, and I gave it to my boss at the time, and he says, "Oh, no, you got to shorten it down. Like, people will understand this. Like, make it short and concise." And so 52 pages came down to 30 pages, and he finally said, "No, we want a one-page summary of why we have to have craps in Alberta." So he says, the board members are farmers, and they have no idea what gaming is in Alberta, and they've got to read so much stuff. You got to have a one-page summary. So when I worked with the government, I learned that you basically tell them like bullet points, and that's it. They don't care what the theory behind it is. And so we had to do all kinds of regulations because the criminal code only allows dice to be owned by the government. We had to go through that whole schmozzle of they have to own the dice and buy the dice and then give them to the casinos. But they were really paranoid about dice, and just like the slot machines, I guess.
Yep.
That's so cool that you went from 52 pages down to one, I'm sure one of the
one
points were like,
page.
I'm
And the
sure that
T's
one
and
of them-
C's, the T's and C's for craps were the same thing. Like there was like probably like a whole bunch of pages on. I've got submissions from people like Jim Wolfe, and like everybody had helped me do the terms and conditions, because I'd send them out drafts and what's good with this, what's good with that. And when I went to the review of the board members, oh no, I got to do this, we got to do this, like because the regulatory guys, the cops got their final cut at it too. So it was horrible. I was very embarrassed by the whole thing.
Hey, all
And I'm sure there's a few people that remember those first terms and T's and C's for craps, and they go, "Holy shit, what is this? Like, who wrote this?" And I have to take responsibility for it. So, fling your arrows my way.
Well, okay. So you mentioned the T's and C's. It's funny that you mentioned that because I do have a question. In my hand, I have this guide, which is the Northlands Klondike Craps. Don't ask me how I get things like this, but
Probably your brother.
Well, no, because this was before he even started. The revision was in 1984. So who was responsible for creating this documentation?
I am going to guess and say that might have been Liz. She was very involved with everything Klondike Days. Like she wrote a lot of the regulation for Klondike Days. It might have been Marie too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a really, like just reading through it and just going through the procedures. It's really good, and it's in depth, and for like it's somebody that does have knowledge of craps, right? So to talk about drop cutting and cutting chips and just like positions and whatnot, there is a wheel here. So John wouldn't understand that part of it, but everything else from this Klondike Craps would be.
garage.
Hey,
That's another lost art, drop cutting.
Yeah.
People can't cut chips anymore.
Yeah, you're saying, Mike?
Shuffle it.
Do you find these at casino garage sales or like?
Oh, me. I'm like the holder of history. I'm like the curator.
The history. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Museum of J.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like everyone always asks, like, how the hell do you have all of this stuff? And yeah, I don't know. It just over the years you get it. So
I love seeing people's old name tags. Like they are just hilarious.
yeah. Yeah, that's one of the coolest things that we have on the site for the Casino Industry Canada group. It's just seeing everybody's tags. It's not just from Alberta too, but just like from around Canada. It's pretty cool to see that.
So you should have loved. You would have loved seeing all the applications, casino applications from the Alberta Gaming Commission. Like all your applications, like licensing applications, all the pictures. We used to have to do it yearly. Send a picture in every year. And of course, all these pictures would be stacked on the portfolios and you'd see people over the years and some great pictures from there.
Yeah, you can see all the bad haircuts year to year.
Yeah, so they're all supposed to be passport photos, but some of them look like they were taken like in a back alley somewhere. Great.
Yeah.
You could see people's hairlines just go back.
They're fading.
Stop it. Stop it.
What are you trying to say, Jay? That never happens.
Is that a bald joke or?
Oh yeah. Who am I to say that, right?
Yeah. Well, you got a hat on, so.
Yeah, because I need to look a little bit different than everybody else on the panel, so
Yeah.
that's usually
The two hats are like.
yeah. Like John and I, like we don't want people to think that we're like the same person.
Show off
They
Mike
get us.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're often mistaken for each other, to be honest.
Exactly,
It's uncanny
yeah.
how often it happens. So,
Yeah, I can do that.
Wyatt, sorry to interrupt anybody. So here's a question, and I like to ask this like pretty much all the time to the people we get on. Like you spent a long time in casinos. Was there ever an opportunity that you were offered that you didn't take, that you now look back and you regret?
It's funny you mention that. I have a friend from the UK who's basically it was his birthday yesterday, and we were talking yesterday. he owned a surveillance company for worldwide gaming, and he always wanted me to come and work with him, but I did not want to go to South Africa, and that was where his biggest business was, in South Africa. And I was not interested in going to South Africa. So we've remained friends, like really good friends to this day, but I probably regret not doing that, because that would have given me a lot of international experience. Mm-hmm. And the other opportunity that's kind of funny with Howard, we went in right after the Palace opened, we went to Kowloon, which is Canton, to look at a site for, they were looking at possibly hiring someone to do a casino in Kowloon. So we flew to Hong Kong, and at that time it was still mainland China, so we had to get a visa to go into Kowloon, take the train up to Kowloon, visit the site. It was a 5-story building. I remember it to this day like it was yesterday. And if anyone's ever been to China, the buildings on the outside look just immaculate, like modern, like pieces of art. But on the inside, it's all adobe kind of mortar, and it was an unfinished building, basically. It looked brand new on the outside, but we went in the first floor, and they were telling us the first floor was going to be casino, and the second floor was going to be hotel, and the top 3 floors were all going to be bordello, shall I say. I don't know if you could say whorehouse here, but the guy was really proud that it was going to be like basically a whorehouse, because that's all that makes money. And the person that owned the building was the mayor of this little suburb of Kowloon. He never showed up. He was supposed to come and take us for lunch, but I inadvertently heard that he was executed in Peking that day for gambling public money. So I thought to Howard, I don't think we want to gamble here in Kowloon too much. Like, justice is pretty. Gambling, and at that time, was one of the 7 deadly sins. So he basically was. There was no appeal in China for crimes committed.
So how did you hear about that opportunity? It's not like it's.
That was a Howard thing. Like, he basically, him and the board of directors they'd met somebody that knew somebody, and they invited us over to. I think they were having trouble finding legitimate gaming people, so they wanted somebody from outside. But the only time I ever got to ride in a Rolls Royce, we got picked up at the old Kai Tak Airport in Hong Kong, which was a treat to fly into. That's where it was one runway in the middle of Hong Kong. So you fly in towards a mountain, turn at the last second, and you look out the window, and there's people hanging their laundry out on balconies. And you land in one runway, and it was just chaos. My memories of Hong Kong and the rats were like ginormous. And that was another reason. I was the first one on the plane to come back. I was getting out of there as fast as I could.
Wow, that's great. Sorry, John.
Sorry, Jim.
I know, Mike. I know you have to leave because Mike, you work in the hospital, and you do a lot of good work, and you're a busy guy. Just before you leave, though, Mike, I know that you and I worked at the same time. We started at the same time, and we're both kind of the bridge between Wyatt and John. So what were your memories of Wyatt when you were working at Palace?
Oh, that's scary.
No, they weren't scary at all, actually, because I was new. I mean, we didn't work together all that well. I was a dealer, and I probably learned 1 or 2 games here or there. But I remember there was always a kind word, but I remember there were a lot of jokes. I remember, you'd be sitting on a table kind of quiet, and come up, and I'd be like, "Did you just say that?" It's just funny, and it was entertaining, and it was a good laugh. And I got to say thank you. It made people like me, who I was actually shy at one time, more comfortable to deal.
So that goes back to the old style, though. It was like, to me, we are entertainment. We're in the entertainment industry. It's not like where you. I still remember the time where we hired the comedian to come in and give people kind of like instructions on PR, and he was basically telling the people, we'd want them breakfast, and they'd come in for this little lecture, and everyone thought it was really serious. And this guy was telling the staff that, well, you can't let anyone leave. You've got to make sure that you've taken every dime out of their pockets, even if you have to turn them upside down and shake all the money out of them. They can't get out of the casino until we get every dime from them. And the shocked looks on people's faces was just priceless. And people hated us for doing that, but I thought it was just hilarious.
That is funny.
So,
those are one of the good things. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not it's serious industry. Yeah, we raise money for charities, but you can't be serious all the time. You got to have some kind of personality, and we all know the zombie staff that's in there right now, where they're not allowed to say anything. They're not allowed to do anything. They can't even follow the rules correctly, as far as I'm concerned. Like it's. They're calling the pit boss every 10 seconds because this person did this. What do I do? Back in the day, dealers would correct most of their own mistakes, to tell you the truth. Unless it was something major, they wouldn't even call the pit boss. They just do it themselves.
Oh, that's cool.
Thank you for having me on. Free.
No worries. We'll have to get together for a game of golf next summer.
We definitely have to golf. I golfed twice this year and I missed it, but we'll have to golf. But thank you for next week too. Next week's the big episode. So
the big episode, yes.
Yeah.
Tune in for that.
All right.
Tune in for sure. And guys,
yes.
Once again.
Yeah. Say, Mikey.
Thanks, Mike.
Respect always, man.
Yes. Nice talking to you.
Thank you. Good seeing you again, Wyatt. Thank you.
Yes.
Again. We'll talk to you
Cheers.
soon.
All right.
So any heckle comments yet?
No, not yet. So I think people are maybe they're scared of commenting to you. Oh. We haven't had a comment come up yet. But if you have any questions, guys, ask.
Yep. I never used to understand that because people would say they were just so intimidated by me, but I have no idea why. Because I tried.
Yeah. You had that aura. You had that aura about you, like when you were walking on the floor. It's like, oh, this is for me. When I started, it's like, oh, wow, this is like the games manager, right? So we were all intimidated because it was about title and everything too. So, but it didn't mean that you weren't approachable. You were really cool. Like you're a really nice guy when I got to talk to you. So.
Well, the higher you go in this industry, I'm not going to say the least you have to do, but you really have to rely on your people under you to handle like the day-to-day stuff of you rely on the supervisors to supervise the pits and them to supervise the pit bosses. Like, does it sound like the movie Casino? Well, the pit boss watches the dealers and the box man watches this, and like it's really what it happens though. Is like I had to do more of the back office stuff, and people don't understand, like there's a lot of back office stuff that has to happen of like, do we have enough prime ribs to have a prime rib special, and like really menial tasks like that become the original Palace. Like we had a cook that used to like to walk out the back door with all the prime ribs. So, well, I'm just taking them home to cure them. Sure you are.
So, Wyatt, one of the other things we like, I like to ask anyway, maybe not Jay, but I like to ask anyway. So I'm sure he does because he's smart. So what advice would you give somebody today starting in casinos? Like, because this is all like, because across generations and, somebody watch this, I'm sure, and say, well, Wyatt was in it for a long time and you worked in lots of different places. So what advice would you give somebody who is starting out today?
I think it's a great industry still. Like there's a lot of potential there. Like I have no idea what the pay structure is now, but back then it was a pretty good paying job. Even for dealers, like you could survive almost exclusively on tips at that time. And if you get into management, if you really like the industry, the management is it's a nice industry to work in. At least it used to be. I think there's a lot more opportunity for advancement now with the proliferation of casinos all across North America. Like if you really want to go somewhere, you can go work in a casino somewhere else. If you had to move out to the coast, you could probably get a job out on the coast. And of course, you could always get jobs on the cruises. A lot of people have gone down that route. I know, John, you've worked in the cruises. Jade, have you worked there too? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I did a contract.
It's not for everybody. It sounds like a glamorous job, but living in a small little box with another person, sharing a room with another person that you don't really know when you get on, but you certainly get to know them over your contract. But you get to see the world, but it's not like it's a James Bond type thing. It's a lot of hard work on a cruise ship too, because they have you doing other duties also. But I think there's still lots of opportunity in the industry now.
Okay. So, yeah. Sorry, John. Before you ask, my question is: do you feel that in Alberta that the market is oversaturated, or do you think what's your point of view on that?
I think it's kind of oversaturated now, and I'm partially responsible for that too, obviously, because I'm the one that helped with the native casinos. I got the regulations changed to allow native casinos. So a lot of the older people, like Heinz, hated me for that, I'm sure. He never talked to me after that. So it was an experience, like negotiating with the government to get the terms and conditions to allow native casinos. But I think the industry changed when the government got into the slot machines. Like the whole kind of persona of casinos changed when the government got into slot machines, because that became the prime focus of all the casinos. And the more slot machines they could get out in the province, the happier they were. And they don't really care about charitable gaming. It's just like something they put up with to allow the slot machines all over the place. But I do think there's way too many casinos in Alberta. And I've always been told it's a cyclical industry where it gets oversaturated and a lot of casinos will close and eventually they'll come back again. But gambling is still popular right now. Maybe not so much this year with COVID, but I'm sure the government is really hurting from the revenues. At one time, it was the fourth largest revenue generator for the government. So that's pretty
Wyatt,
big.
when you're saying about like it's cyclical, I still have friends working in casinos back home, and so I keep in contact with them, or I see posts of them. And a lot of casinos in the UK are closing because of there's other avenues to gamble, right? I mean, you don't need to leave your house and stuff like that. So, from your experience and from your opinion, like you said, that the casinos are like in Alberta, it's oversaturated. What would you change?
I think this is not. We don't have the tourism dollars. Like casinos in Alberta tend to kind of like take money out of local people's economies, where a casino in Vegas is like they rely on the tourism dollars. And even in the cruise ships, they have a different customers every week, basically. So they're not really kind of draining the local economy. But I think with so many casinos, and I know it's all charitable gaming, and they do it for charitable gaming, and they really do need the money, and I understand that part. But I just think there's 2 casinos or 3 casinos where the charities might not have to be the sponsor of a casino, where they could all just go into a pool of money and they share the pool of money equally. To me, would be the best bet for me. Do we really need? Was it 5 casinos in Edmonton right now?
I always say 6.5. So
yeah. So, are you talking the illegal ones or the backroom ones?
Those are the legal ones.
I'm sure there's a few Pai Gow rooms going on still, especially now in Chinatown.
Wyatt, there are a couple of questions. A couple of comments here. This one's from Paul, and Paul asks, in their point of view, how did HR, government regulations, and OHS affect the industry? Hi, Paul.
OHS. I'm not sure what he means by OHS.
Occupational health and safety.
Oh, in my time, there was no such thing as government. Well, the government, they had the government regulations, but they just had the T's and C's. And they really got into like what kind of security system you had to have in the casino. But other than that, they really could care less what you did in the casino. HR, I think the Palace really started a lot of HR stuff. Before we had a union there, we had just an association, which was one step below a union. And a lot of interesting negotiations there. But there was really no such thing as OHS stuff, like occupational health stuff. Like nobody did anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in the industry when we had smoking all the time at the tables, and a lot of people complained when they cut out the smoking, when the city of Edmonton banned smoking in public facilities. But people would go outside and smoke. But that was probably the biggest occupational health hazard. I used to remember coming home and my clothes would smell of cigarette smoke. Like it was just disgusting, actually. And I used to smoke at one time, so.
So the question. So I guess with Paul's question, I probably want to add on to that. Did you ever have like situations? Because I know Paul has in his history as a games manager, but did you ever have a lot of your staff come up with issues like where they're unable to work because of conditions, like more about just like dealing where or back problems or something like that?
Well, just wait till he gets to be my age and you'll understand what problems, back problems, feet problems. My feet I still have really bad feet from standing on concrete floors for 12 hours a day dealing. But, there's always been kind of like facility issues. The best one I remember, and this is going to really gross a lot of people out, is the old 112th Street Casino one time got shut down because there was an infestation of maggots all over the floor. It was absolutely just the most grossest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, so
Oh my God.
it was like something.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's funny to talk about it now, but it was unbelievable. And there's a few people that'll probably remember that day where we had to close basically because they had to spray the whole place and basically shovel all the maggots out. But it was never cleaned the way even modern casinos are now. But that was one thing I remember about the good old days.
Oh my God. Maggots. I've never heard a casino close because of a maggot infestation.
It was actually a sea of white. It was just so bad.
Wow,
it was just absolutely disgusting. Like I never seen anything like that in my life again. So, but we've had the casinos closed because of thunderstorms, power outages, and of course everybody dives over their tray and that kind of stuff. But I guess there's always been issues with people's personal health of like, bending over, dealing cards. Like it's hard on the back. It's, posture gets bad. Even the tables are not adjustable. So if you're a really short person or a really tall person, it's really hard on you to deal. But, it seems like we heard about them, but we never did anything about them. So, which is kind of sad.
I spent, like in the 19 years I was in casinos, I spent 18 years of them on craps tables, dealing whatever, for the most part, I didn't have the personality to actually get promoted too far up. I was always too chaotic, I guess. But I pretty much dealt craps with like on one leg because I was the height of the table and the height of me. I had to lean over and always stick one leg out. So literally, I'm thinking about like I must have spent like tens of thousands of hours of my casino career on one leg. It's insane to think of it. I go, what? Yeah, I was like, because I had to lean over. I was too proud to stand on the box I was like, I'm not going to stand in a box. You know, some dealers
Yeah.
would have and they were like, oh, we'll cover the box with carpet. Nobody will know the difference. I'm like, yeah, they will. No, I'm not.
Yeah, I
standing
remember
in
a
a
lot of the ladies used to have to stand on the boxes, even at blackjack tables, and you'd come along behind them, and the first thing you'd have to do is like kick the box out of the way or hide it out of the way, or else you'd forget about it and you'd hit your foot on it as you stood behind the table. And
Oh yeah, I've tripped over boxes.
I remember one time at the Palace Casino, we had those carpet covered boxes, and we had a shorter guy came in, and he was a real shorter guy, and I gave him the box to play on. I was like, man, come on, you can't reach it. He literally couldn't. I was like, don't worry, man, we go. So I took it and he played on it. He was like, this is the best thing ever, and he was good all night because he could actually play on it. And I was like, yeah, man, you stay here. I even told him, I said, if you want to go anywhere else, you can take the box with you. I was like, just take it. Who cares?
That's awesome. We have a couple more comments here. For those, we got some people joining in. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Coming in late. We are here with Wyatt, our special guest, our OG representative, one of the very first people. Who was the president when you first were dealing? Was it Carter?
who was president? No, it wasn't Carter. I think it was Nixon.
Oh,
No, it wasn't Nixon. It was whoever was after Nixon. There was it Ford. Ford. He took over for Nixon.
wow.
So he had 2 years left on the term. I think Nixon left in 72, and I started in 74. So it was probably Ford or.
Yeah. I don't know.
I would think it would be around that era. Long time ago, way in the Wayback Machine.
Wow. Yeah, John?
No, because like I never got the chance to work with Wyatt in a casino, so I really.
I think I left just before you came on.
That's right.
Yeah, I started in January 2000, so it was.
Yeah, I left in 1999. So
Wow.
What
it was there
casinos
10 years from 89. I was the first employee in 89, and I left in 99, I think, to go to the Gaming Commission.
Oh, okay. So did you work out in other casinos outside of Edmonton?
Oh, absolutely. Like I started with, did most of my work with Casino ABS, of course, worked at 112th Street and Argyle, and that's where Nicky would send me on all these little small casinos all over the place. I worked St. Albert, Short Park, Prince Albert, or some of the lovely places. Fort McMurray, Lethbridge, worked in Calgary for a while. Calgary was a fun place. I spent more money than I made in Calgary, working in Calgary. So, but that's when you were young and foolish and you like to party a lot. So, yeah, I remember coming down for the Stampede one year, and I think I got paid $1,200 for the 10 days. And I thought, gee, I think I just spent like $1,700 in 10 days. So who was working for who? But
I remember, and that was, I think, the joy of being in the casinos when you were younger, right? Because it's like you just basically earned enough money to enjoy yourself, and it's
like cash flow. It's like cash flow all the time. You got paid every 2 days in tips, and I remember getting stacks of checks, and I'd take them to the bank like once a month and deposit 30 checks or 40 checks, because we used to get, at one time we'd get a check and a T4 slip at the same time. So you'd get a T4 slip made out and a check and your tips. So basically the checks would get piled in a pile in a drawer, and you'd go take them to the bank once in a while. But Revenue Canada got really so upset with us turning in, I think one time I had 300 T4 slips in 1 year, because you'd work 12 hours in one casino and you'd go work 6 hours at another casino, and so you'd get two T4 slips, and it'd be for $42 or $52 in one, $79 in another one. Yeah. So Revenue Canada said, that's when Revenue Canada said, no, you guys are employees of the casino. Like, this T4 slip nightmare was just a nightmare.
Oh my God.
I think the biggest thing that, well, I never had the opportunity to do when I came to Canada. I came in 1998. The first time I came in, Edmonton. In 1998, I came to Edmonton, and I was so looking forward to seeing like K-Days. I was like, oh, I did so much. My wife worked in casinos here. Her mom, her aunt worked in casinos. So I'd heard all about K-Days and things like that, and all the casinos and this big thing. I was so looking forward to it. And I walked in, and it was the first year that all the other casinos were allowed to open, and it was just kind of like not as impressive. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But they did that. They had the wheel. I was like, what is that? On craps, I was like, what is that? So I had to play it. So the thing I feel like I missed out of anyway, that I wish I had, was working in K-Days when all the casinos
In the heyday, yeah.
and like the whole, like, you met everybody. So when you worked in K-Days, you knew all the people in the casinos in Edmonton, and it was, and going to that at the after party, in the park and stuff like that. Just that kind of stuff sounded really cool.
The legendary Borden Park parties.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we've heard about those.
No, we got kicked out of that place so many times. It was just crazy. Like, you'd end up there at 2:00 in the morning, and someone would have gone and bought all the beer and whatever, and it'd be out of the trunk. And it was like, you'd hang out there for 3 or 4 hours. People used to have motor homes pulled in there, and it's a great little kind of nightcapper, because there was nothing open at that time. Like, there was no nightclubs at that time that were open that late. But my best story of Klondike days was the first 2 years I worked. We used to get paid cash at the end of the Klondike days. You'd go over to the SportX building and they'd pay us cash, which, for a 17 or 18-year-old guy to get $1,000 in cash, this was heaven.
That's awesome.
Until somebody kind of blurted on the radio, "Oh, those casino dealers are getting paid in cash tonight at the end of Klondike days." So, so then that's when they had to stop paying us in cash.
It's always someone. I have some questions about people that may have changed the way the industry was. Like, I remember that you were allowed to sit at a dead table until someone fell asleep, and I'm just trying to figure out who that person was that fell asleep.
Oh, I have my suspicions who that could be, but I don't want to name any names.
Just kidding. Hello, Loretta. Nice to see you. So her comment was the casinos have been the Native First Nations casinos have been very good for the community. I do not see that as a negative. Wyatt's correct when he says HLC does not care about the charity aspect.
No, they don't, because all they have to do is regulate the charities, license the charities. They don't even do as much due diligence as they used to, like vetting the casino employees. Like, I think for the general manager, of the volunteer staff here, the general manager, I think the banker, it's the only people they do background checks on. But before, they used to run criminal record checks on all the volunteers. I don't think they even do that anymore. Hey, they let me be a volunteer, so they can't be checking too closely.
So we also have. Laura said one more thing before we do our roulette battle in a minute and a bit. Government revenue will be $900 million lost.
Yes, yeah, that's probably pretty substantial. The last one I remember is that they had. I think the last year I was in the industry, we had $1.4 billion in slot revenue in 2000, I believe it was, and that's the last year I was involved with any of the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's
wow.
I'm sure we got a lot higher than that, because there was definitely more casinos after I left, so they're getting a bigger slice of the pie. And back then, VLTs were the big thing now, and because VLTs were like money makers for the government, because they were cashless basically, so they didn't have to worry about cashing, filling buckets of quarters up like when we first started, like the casinos at the Palace. it's made so much an ease, so much easier, I think, for cashless payouts that those vouchers just made a big difference. Except the printers probably break down all the time.
So
But
Jay, you
there's-
can do that. Oh, sorry, Wyatt. Go ahead.
I was going to tell a story about one night we were collecting from the bill acceptors at Palace Casino for the slot machines. And what they do is they'd go and empty the bill acceptor and put it in an envelope and leave it in the tray. And somebody would come along and pick up all the envelopes after. So I'm walking back to my office, I think about 2:30 in the morning, and there's like 3 slot machines by the stairs going upstairs to the office, and the envelopes are still sitting there. People had forgot to even pick them up. So I took them up to my office and put them in the office, and about 2 hours later I went downstairs and, how'd you guys do tonight? Oh yeah, we're fine. We balanced this and balanced that. And so, are you missing anything? No, I don't think so. So I gave them the 3 envelopes, and they go, a shocked look on their faces, like that's just, but there was kind of, we were learning the industry at that time, shall I say. No controls. Go ahead, the big roulette challenge. Am I allowed to play?
No, but you guys can take a break while I play this video. If you guys have to go to the washroom, because we're an hour in, so.
Yep. I'll be right back.
Yep.
Yep,
Sounds
no
good.
worries. I'll watch.
Sounds good. All right. It's that time.
Is Nikki on? Is Nicole on?
I don't know. I know Loretta is on, and I know Paul is on. So, so before we do it, guys, get ready. Get your brains ready here. I have a couple announcements. Shauna, her book is available on Amazon. It's Redeemer. We did that interview a couple of weeks ago. Also, we will have our Talking Craps 20th episode Christmas giveaway special. I'll show this again at the end of this segment, but that's going to be a good one. So we're going to give you some more details throughout the week on how to get your hands on some free money. And I would like to start this video. I have one more comment. Who's saying the comment? Oh, look at that, Wyatt.
Hey, hi, Nicole. How you doing?
It's like you guys know when each other is on. See? It's good. So you haven't had any heckles yet, so that's really good.
People are being too kind.
I think so. All right, so let's do the roulette battle. Guys, same rules as always. The first person to answer correctly will win a $25 Amazon gift card. So good luck. Here we go.
Well, you're being easy on people today.
Yeah, I am. Oh, nice try. Oh, nice try. Joe, you're my favorite guy, honestly. You're always the first person to reply. Oh, almost, guys. Really?
So close and yet so far.
My God. Oh, wow. Even a second answer. Nice try, Joe. Guys, honestly, it seems
It was an
easy.
easy one, John. You're muted, John.
It seems easy.
Yes, it looks very easy, but looks can be deceiving.
Yeah. John, I can't hear you. Yeah, I still can't hear you. You have to drop off and jump back in again.
Yeah, it must be your lovely Wi-Fi.
I don't know why that does happen sometimes though. So
Oh,
Sounds right. Facebook user, though. I think you should really log in before you reply. But I know who that is.
Yeah. You have the power, eh?
I have the power, yeah. Well, yep. Loretta, you're right. Unfortunately, Paul beat you to it. Paul, who's not following the rules, who should...
Yes.
Yeah, that's you, Paul. Anyways, congratulations, Paul. You have won the gift card. However, you should really log on to StreamYard.
They should donate it to someone.
Wi-Fi gone wrong, John. Hello.
He looks sad still.
Jamie?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. There you are.
I'm
Can you hear me?
back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Where have I heard that?
So 90s.
So who won? I missed all the excitement.
Well,
Well, one.
who do you think was the first person to reply?
Oh, it's always Joe.
Yeah.
Joe's awesome. I love Joe. He's like, boom, first one in. I tried to trump him one day when I was like 8. It wasn't even,
Yeah, he was-
obviously no one's going to.
He was 12 too high.
Yeah.
12 too high.
See Joe. He knows he's always the first one. You must have some really good Wi-Fi at your house, Joe, because you
Yeah,
always
man.
beat everybody. You need to Google the answer though when you're on. All right, guys, thanks for playing along. We're gonna do that next week, even though we have our giveaways and whatnot. I still feel like we should do that. So, speaking of
Secret Santa next week.
well, we have some really good prizes. Well, thanks to you, Wyatt, of course. Wyatt is the person that's donated the largest prize of $100, which we will give out as our grand prize, and we'll be doing a game show segment. John, the host, as always. If you guys have seen the 10th episode, you'll kind of have an idea of what it looks like. But anybody can play along, and you can
Is
play
it like
online.
Jeopardy?
It's more like Trivial Pursuit.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked like Jeopardy, but we couldn't have the buzzers. We could have the buzzers, but there was like 11. How many people were on that show, John? It was so
Oh,
hectic.
it was crazy. It was meant to be 3 people, but then it was like one person had like 3 people, and it was like it was just it got chaotic. To be honest, it was fun. It was really fun, but it was like the challenge with these video calls is when you try and talk, you end up talking over it, and then when you have 9 people who drinks and having fun, it was like yeah, it was just
Recipe
it
for
was
disaster.
chaos. Yeah.
Have you guys ever used Kahoot?
No.
It's an online service where everybody can log in, and basically it's like a Trivial Pursuit game too. It's questions. You can write your own questions. You can pick questions from their service, and it usually gives you 4 choices of an answer. And some of them sound pretty reasonable, and of course only one of them's right. And it keeps score for everybody, and it's basically how fast you answer.
No,
It's kind of fun. We use it at work all the time.
well. Yeah, maybe John will look at it because our questions are definitely ridiculous. They're supposed
I'll send you the link to it.
We wouldn't be able to answer our own questions, just like these roulette battles. We don't really answer them. We try to just figure out when like 6 people have the right answer, then we know that that's the right answer.
There you go. That's the best way. Majority rules.
It's a democracy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Except in the US.
It doesn't have to be right. It just has to be the majority of people
That's
said
right.
it was right.
That's
Oh,
right. That's how the majority works.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, John.
Wyatt, what are you doing now?
What am I doing now? I work for a very large oil and gas company who spans the world in energy, and I am a data analyst for them. So, and I'll tie that all back to the casino industry, because when I was with the Palace, I started keeping track of all the stats of the table games. So I learned this lovely program called Excel. And I enjoyed it so much, I became like a spreadsheet guru. And I went into coding. Basically, I had a background in computer science to start with. So it was kind of a natural for me. And I basically started coding in the background. And now I work as a data analyst for a large oil and gas and solar and wind company.
Oh, cool.
That's cool. That is so cool. Would you ever go back to the casino?
You know, it's funny because I've been asked that so many times. Like, I think I'm out of touch with the industry now. Like, I don't have a clue what goes on in there now. When I go in a casino, like I told you guys last week, it feels like work when I go in, and I get really bored really fast. So when you start watching dealers and you go, holy Christ, who trained this person? They can't even count 3 cards. And that was my rule. If you can't count 3 cards by looking at them, you're never going to be a dealer. And messy dealers. We had the discussion on Facebook the other day about snapping cards. I think Bev started a discussion about people snapping cards, maybe it was Louise that did it. I can't remember who it was, but to me, dealing is like an art form. It should be graceful and elegant, and every card should be in its place, and you shouldn't make any noise dealing. All you should be able to hear is those cards coming out of the shoe, because that's the only thing that makes noise.
Yeah.
And especially those shoes that Barry used to have with the trap door on them so people couldn't see.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever dealt on one of those. Have you seen one of those, John? A dealing shoe, but it was like a trap door, so you had to push the trap door up and then pull the card out, just so people couldn't see the card. Like whether it was, they were into like hiding cards from card counters and marking cards.
Oh wow!
It's amazing some of the things that, over the years come out that people think it's a good idea, and then in retrospect, you look back and go, "Man, that was so dumb." It was like, what is the point? Why did they do that? It just slowed down how you. I mean, we all know.
Did you try roulette on the plexiglass covers that ABS used to have? They used to cover their roulette tables in plexiglass, so the felts would last longer.
It was so loud, and those things got scratched up. And
it was just horrible. They'd get scratched up, and you try and slide chips across them and hit a groove, and they, like 200 chips would go flying all over the table.
I remember playing on it, and I was like, "What is this?" And I gambled in lots of places all over the world, and then I remember going, "What is this? Why are they doing it?" I was like, in my innocence, I was like, "Oh, they spill a lot of drinks here." But no, I didn't realize,
to make the felts last longer, so they wouldn't have to replace the felts.
Yeah, but I can imagine it would have been horrible to deal on because it was shitty to play on.
Yeah, whoever that is, I remember them too.
Tim. Hi, Tim. Look who's joined. Hello, Selena.
Hey, Selena. Is Selena still like the Pai Gow champion?
No, unfortunately, just like how Mike lost, she lost in the very last hand. If you guys want to watch that, it's on the channel. And maybe one day she will issue her rematch clause and try to retain that or attain that belt.
Hard to retire a champion.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Hey, if Tyson can come out of retirement, so can Selena.
I heard about that fight. I didn't see it. I didn't watch it, but
I kind of watched. Yeah, I kind of watched it on like Twitter and some things. They just looked old, like really old.
He was one mean dude. I remember walking through the MGM Grand one time, and here comes Don King with his hair sticking straight up, and right behind him is Mike Tyson, and he was one scary looking dude. I'm talking about Don King, not Mike Tyson.
That's funny. Joe Chan. Oh, wow, Loretta, call him out.
Yeah,
Combination.
really. Yeah.
Show that one.
Sure wouldn't want him on my table when he's overpaying people.
In Joe's defense, we probably all need training.
Oh, definitely there. You're right there.
So yeah, while you're talking about Louise bringing in the whole comment about like the snapping of cards, then right at the time I put out that video with like Nicole and Blackjack, I'm like, oh damn it, did I just get called out for snapping cards? So it's like, that's the one thing when I do these videos is like, oh yeah, you get a little self-conscious about it. Like, you know what, it is an art, right? But I think that I wish there was more people on the channel. Like, I mean, it's, you know, I love dealing and I love you know, being able to like create this content so that people can have fun and play along. But I think it'd be really cool, like down the road, to get some more people to like, you know, just do like videos and just kind of promote whatever they're doing on the channel, because I think it's cool to like create a community, not just watching like videos of you know, me. And I know like this is a cool show, but I mean like the whole intent of our show is to connect generations. So I'd love to see more people kind of pitch in and just throw in some of their videos as well. So.
I think you had a cooler deck going there.
Yeah. Well, it's from the dollar store, those 4 decks. So that's my excuse when you hear noises. So
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Here's the question. Talking about dealing, I really used to like, you know, like we used to like, do you like to deal, or did you like to deal with paper or plastic cards? I remember like they were like cards, whatever it was, and they were really like, they would just wouldn't make noises, and you couldn't really bend them. You'd have to try to like mess them up. I was never a good blackjack at it, in all honesty. I wasn't.
I used to love dealing. The paper cards for me. I didn't like plastic cards because they're really easy to snap, I guess. I love paper cards because they were like just very elegant, very smooth.
So Paul says, so true. There's dealers and croupiers. Paul is he's like, when I first met Paul, I think the first discussion we had were about chip weights, and I never thought I would be talking about weights of chips with somebody until I met Paul. So, I mean, I think Paul's one of the originals as well, and he, you know, like he worked at Baccarat when that place first opened, and he became a games manager as well. But
is this Paul T?
No, it's Paul C.
Yeah.
But Paul is you know, someone that really wanted to talk. Same with Selena. I love because Selena was a very good dealer as well. So I think
it's an art form. It really is. Like if you want to be good at it, and it shows. But if you want to get lazy and just kind of throw cards around and mess things up, it really shows too.
But to be honest, like coming back to that, I think like to create, like, you know, like I said, I was never really good at blackjack. I did it because we had to, and whatever. I think to be good at something, we need to have the tools to be able to be good at something. Right? Like Jay just mentioned the chips. Like a lot of casinos I worked in, it was like, man, these chips are shit. You can't deal with them. They're like, oh my god, they've cheaply replaced all the chips they had, and they went back to these plastic ones because somebody told them, oh, these skins will last forever. But they were terrible to deal with, right? And you need to have the equipment to be able to deal to a certain extent, right? I mean,
that's when accountants take over the casinos and like start outsourcing products go to the cheapest bidder, and you get the cheapest product because you save 10 cents on a chip instead of like getting something that's properly made for casino gaming. Even roulette chips, like you used to get the plastic ones there that are just horrible to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like the casino I trained in like a long time, like the original one, we used to have like these really nice, like proper, like it's crap sticks, right? You know, and you know, we started going mental, right? Because it was like the only casino you could work, like come and play craps at, literally within like 100 miles, right? And at some point, somebody broke the glass where you stand on the stick just below. He broke it. So we used to whittle the stick. It was just something to do, right? But like, oh, we're going to whittle a stick. We didn't accept tips, right? So it was like, we don't care. So we whittle a stick until it became a point. And it was so busy. If someone got too close, we just hit them with a stick. We just, and we stop it back. Sorry. Yeah, and every morning, like every afternoon, the the guy that used to work there used to like maintain everything. He's going, stop doing, stop sharpening the stick, and he would sawed it off, and the stick gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and then eventually we couldn't use it, so we had to keep replacing it, right? And at one point they were like, you know what? We're not going to keep buying you these sticks because you don't respect them. We're like, oh, okay. So then they brought these really cheapy ones in, and literally you would go like, and it would snap in
Snap right
during the
now.
game. Yeah, it was so cheap. They were like, oh, we saved some money, but we go like, and they were like, oh, I don't know what to do now. And we would go through so many. They were eventually like, okay, fine, if you make your point, you don't have the points anymore.
Well, it's the same thing with cards. Like,
Yeah.
we used to get, you'd buy basically years worth of cards, and you'd get quotes from different companies, and like US playing card was kind of like the Cadillac of playing cards, and then Cardamundi came along, and they'd give you a better deal on cards. And at first, Cardamundi cards were not that good. I don't know what they're like now, but they were not as good. They had a great salesman though, Moritz van der Kruisen.
Yeah.
He was the nicest man you'd ever meet in your life. Big hands and big Austrian guy. And he used to be a soccer player, and he used to tell me some great stories. And he was a good man.
But to that point, I mean, like, this is something I've never thought of. I don't think we've ever talked about. Have any of you in your career, or anybody watching, have ever been asked to test the equipment someone's trying to sell you? Like, all right, well, we get these new chips. How about some dealers test them out, or these cards?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You have?
Yeah. No. For me, actually, the recent one was Regency. Regency was like, and I love Maurice. He's a really cool guy, and I still would want to buy things from him if I was still like a manager. I really appreciated the fact that he would actually come to our casino and like just the face-to-face interaction, not like, hey, I'm going to ship this over to you. I really respected that, and I would always pitch. So, what about you, Wyatt?
No, he was the same thing. Like, he was a great person because he wasn't only a salesman, he was your friend. And it's like, you like to buy from your friends because he would explain things to you, why they do things different than US playing card, why the design is different. So,
but what position were you in when they did that? Were you like a GM position? Or were you a dealer?
Yes,
yeah. Did you have dealers involved in those decisions too, or it was just your own personal preference?
No, like, I never really thought of that. Like, we never get actually, I think we did get some sample cards from them to try out sample cards. So, they were tested, not as extensively as they probably should have been, but
because I think it all boils back, because I can't remember how many casinos I worked in, but I mean, it was quite a few. And a lot of times, they change stuff. And, oh, look, we got these new chips. I'm like, okay, whatever. You got. I used to love clay chips. I thought clay chips were so nice.
They are the best.
I love dealing with clay chips. And I hate the plastic with that metal inside. And it was like, oh, my God, I have to, because as a dice dealer, or as most dealers, you're like, okay, you don't look. You don't go, oh, that's 4. And, so I never thought that. When I saw that somebody was like, hey, we're bringing these in, what are your thoughts? Can you deal better with these? And realistically, wouldn't it be the casino's best interest to say, like, okay, if you had these chips or these, if you had a group of them, whatever, and say, well, okay, how do you think you could deal with these? Are you better, slower, whatever?
Yep.
Yeah, I like clay chips myself too. Like the metal ones just didn't do anything for me. The metal seemed to the insert would always seem to fall out, and as they got older, they were just not as durable as clay chips.
Well, yeah, they became keychains after, just because those metal pieces came out.
And you'd see people that would take a $5 chip or put a $25 insert in it and try and cash it in for some volunteer and say, oh no, it says 25 on it, give me 25. Well, it's a red chip, sir, it's only $5. It says 25, give me $25 for it.
So, well, I didn't think we'd be talking about, like, I love chips, and I have an unhealthy addiction to chips. I used to have
the collection, do you?
I did, yeah. I don't know if I'll ever show my photos of the ones I had before, but yeah, I really loved those chips. when we were talking about just the cards and whatnot, yeah, I remember just getting samples, and you can tell the ones that were really bad because like after like a day, you'd see them warp, and it was just like it was where you stored them as well. Like I know that was an excuse, but like, you can tell by quality, like just how they were, if they were warping or if they weren't, like before use, right? So. Yeah.
I mean, like realistically, if you want dealers to be good, you need to give them the tools to be able to be good, right? I mean, you need to give them good cards. Like if we want to boil it down to like, okay, well, why are the dealers? Why aren't? I mean, like we've all mentioned this before. Why aren't the dealers as good as maybe previously were? Well, maybe some of the tools they have today aren't as good as they were before, right? Maybe why aren't they giving the best cards you can have, right? But the dealers enjoy. I mean, like we just talked like literally 10 seconds. So like, oh, I enjoy dealing with those. Once you enjoy dealing with something, you generally get better, right? So like, oh, I like this. I mean, I'm talking about those ones with the metal inserts. I remember being on a craps table and my buddies would be like, I'm just going to break these. And they'd be just pop the inserts out and go, another broke one. Oh, another broke one. Just because we didn't like them, right? We didn't like to deal with them. So they rebelled against the management because we had no insight or authority to kind of like make these changes, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I remember the time when ABS bought the cards from the Orient too. They were like just paper thin, and I mean paper thin, like two pieces of cardboard melted together, and they were literally coming apart within half a casino. Like within 4 or 5 hours, they were actually splitting apart. But he got them like for, I think, 5 cents a deck or 4 cents a deck from the Orient. Like they weren't casino quality, and we had to use those for quite a while until we ran out of the big shipment of them. And we would literally change decks like 2 or 3 times a day.
Wow.
A couple of comments here. Where's Builds Tables now? He's the most personal rep. I really like him just because of the fact that he gets you involved with like the design of the felt as well. So I really respect that guy.
Is he still around? Like he's got to be like 800 years old now.
Oh no. So Selena agrees with John as well. That's one thing that is a reason that could cause well, I don't want to say cause, but what do you think is another reason why dealers aren't as good as they were before? And I don't want to say that there are some really good ones, but there's a lot more back then.
I think the motivation isn't there anymore, and the pay isn't there anymore. Like it's you're not allowed to be a person anymore. You have to be an absolute robot. Like you're not an entertainer. You're basically just someone that stands there and pulls cards out, they don't interact with the customers at all anymore, unless you're Bev, of course. Like, and you haven't lived until you've gone and sat at one of her tables and played blackjack or whatever. She's always let's just say likes to talk to people, and she has no throttle sometimes, and she says whatever she thinks about. So probably gets her in trouble a lot, but a lot of people don't understand someone that has no off switch. But I like that because I think it's part of the entertainment value. But because let's face it, we're just taking money off people. When we work in a casino, we're there to take money off people. And if people aren't entertained, they're not going to come back. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I completely agree. It is an entertainment industry. Like when I came to it, like I've harped on about this probably too much. When I came to Edmonton, I worked in the Palace Casino. The craps dealers we had were like super engaged, and they were really good other games dealers. They were like generally great dealers on other games, and they just became great dealers on craps, and they were very competitive, and they wanted to be good. And as soon as the game opened, they were like, oh, and they were so enthusiastic, and it showed when everybody came onto the table to play. They saw these guys who were like really enthusiastic, and it was a great atmosphere for the players. And it was like, man, this is a cool experience for them, right? So I remember when I came like probably 3 months after the whole thing started, and I jumped into this, and I was like, oh, this is cool, and these guys are awesome. And quickly we became like the game to play craps because dealers were so good. And I showed them some of the stuff I knew, and they kind of changed a little bit. But the experience they had in the Palace Casino on craps was better than everybody else, right? And it's not that we offered better odds, because obviously we don't. And it was just the experience was better because the dealers were better, and they gave them better experience to the customers, right? They all lose ultimately, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, right? It's just they created a much better experience, which is what players want, right?
Yeah, you're there to entertain people. Like people don't mind if they lose $100 if they feel they got some entertainment out of it. But if you're just there to, like I said before, where we took the comedian and said, you're just there to take money out of them and pull it out of their pockets and take it any way you can. That's not a good experience for a customer. Like, they're not going to come. They're not going to come back if they don't feel they didn't get entertained for their $100. Like, let's face it, we can go to a movie. You can take your wife or your kids to a movie and spend $50 or $100 just like that now. Like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. We have a comment here. Roxanne. Hello, Roxanne. I think the dealers used to have more pride dealing. It was more of a family. You want to come to work and have fun. Now it's just a job.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, there was something that Chris, our guest last week, did say. Something that's been, something I didn't even think about, but it's this phone. Like, this is a game changer too. And when Chris was saying that, like, on breaks, things changed because people were always on their phone. That was, like, such a huge thing that I didn't even realize. I was really oblivious to it, because I remember, like, before we had phones, people would, they'd be working on draws, or they'd be playing cards, or they'd be working on, like, chips and do drills, and they'd go off to the room, like when we had training rooms, and they would just practice, or they just get away from, like, away from the main break room. But yeah, like, because of phones, like, you don't see a lot of that anymore.
Yeah, now it's, you got to check your social media. You got to message with your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife. Check and see how grandma and grandpa are doing. Maybe bid on something online, buy something online. Where when we first started, we had a 15-minute break. You could smoke a cigarette, eat a whole meal, and have a coffee all in 15 minutes. And play backgammon at the same time.
But do you know, like, because I was on the call last week with Danielle, and by the way, Danielle was amazing. And I never, to be honest, because I've been out of the industry for 15 years, so it's I never saw this, and I never really realized that, but back when, when I was in it and all of you guys were in it, when we had a break, we kind of like decompressed from the whole outside, bitched and moaned, and kind of like got to know each other and had a laugh with with the dealers and friends, and played games, crib, big two, pool, whatever it was. We just kind of like hung out and just had a bit of fun, and then like, okay, I got to go back and go and stuff like that. I mean, I remember we, like, in the Pasadena, for instance. I mean, people would kind of like, oh, what break are you on? What break are you on? So you could they would kind of like plan the day out. I mean, I like Sam, I love Sam. She's so much. She taught me big two the first time on. I still have on about. She taught me a rule kind of like every break. So I dealt every break for the first couple of days, because I was like, loser had to deal. I was like, I lost it. Why'd you lose? Oh, all right. She only tells me one rule a break. Yeah. But like, 20 years later, I still have on about. But I mean, it was a way to build like a relationship with, your coworkers, right? And I think having to, when you come in, always on your phone, maybe that's lost. I don't know. It wasn't there when I was in casino, so I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were basically don't socialize with each other. Like, we used to have some epic after work events too, like where everybody would get together somewhere, hang out for 2 or 3 hours. Some of us would hang out all night together, but probably doesn't happen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's sadly something that's happened. Especially when they lengthen the hours. We've talked about this before. When when I was in the Palace, we'd finish at 2, but the Boston Pizza across the road, they kick you out at 3. So the last person would go over there. We'd
and order a table full of drinks, and everybody show up for the hour.
and
Yeah.
he'd social, have a couple of drinks and then go home, right? But it was a way to kind of like connect with people rather than like, okay, you finish work and then you go home. I think that's kind of sad, to be honest.
And now they're pushing for 24-hour casinos. Like the poker's open 24 hours now.
Right.
But poker players are a different group of people. They're a different breed altogether.
Always have
But
been.
Yeah.
I used to work. This is going back a long time ago, right? So I used to work in London, like England, and there's a place called Smithfield Market, and it's a meat market in London, and it's enormous, and it does all the like kind of like the butcher stuff like that for all of London, and it's pretty much a 24-hour like a meat market, right? And around this meat market, the bars there, and they've had this special license where they could open up for 2 hours at any time of the day, right? So it'd be like 4 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours. And it was basically because all these people in the meat market go like, well, they need to go out and have something to eat or have something to drink, whatever. And they would finish work and go to these bars. But these bars would only be open for 2 hours. So when I was working in casinos in London back then, you would go to, like, we just go to the meat market. You're not going to go buy meat. You just go to the bars and you go and you work, you'd have some drinks, whatever, for 2 hours. The bar would close down, then you go to another one, right? But it was a way for people to kind of like unwind after work. Casino people don't have that. And I think it's the only industry that I know of anyway that doesn't have that. So
They do have it in Vegas. They do have that in Vegas where they have nightclubs that are open just for casino people. And they're open, like you say, different rotating hours. But they don't have it here because of liquor laws, basically.
Yep.
Those damn regulators again.
Look
Hey,
at
Daryl.
this.
How you doing?
He says, send your wife to the movies and your girlfriend to the casino. All right. It's funny.
That's your secret, Daryl?
Not anymore. Loretta says it's about money now, not about entertainment.
Yeah.
You have pride in your game and you're not liking it. So.
Like I said, in 99 when they introduced slot machines into Alberta, like the industry changed. Like the owners became prisoners of their own businesses, like so regulated by the government. Got to have this, got to have that. You could only be open for this. You can only do this. And because charitable gaming became just like a side light, they could care less about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the 80% revenue in slot machines.
Yeah. So
okay. Sorry,
John.
sorry, Jay.
Yep.
No, I was just gonna ask Wyatt because Wyatt was in a GM role, and so if you were in a GM role, what would you do, or what would you think you could do to change the way dealers are today? Like
get someone to train them better and like make it fun again. Like, I think we used to have a dealer of the month prize, like a dealer of the week prize, where people got to vote on each other, like, and they'd look for acts of kindness dealing. Like now it's like no one cares anymore because it's just a business. Like you don't get any bonuses for being a better dealer. You don't get any. From what I was hearing you guys talk about last night, there's no bonuses for being a multi-game dealer anymore. Like you get the same rate as everybody else. Like, so what incentive is there? Like, yeah, if I'm a bad dealer and I stand there and it's a union, well, I shouldn't say this now because I know it's a bad thing to say, but if it's a union position and the company can't fire me for doing a shitty job, like why should I do a great job? I get paid just as much as you do.
I don't think. I don't know. This is so hard to discuss. Because when I started, well, I'm not. Yeah, like when we talk about wages, like when I started, like minimum wage, we were making like more than double minimum wage, which was awesome. But then the way that this province has been with like booms and busts and whatnot, it's really affected the casino industry itself as a whole because, back then you'd think minimum wage was good, but now that they, a few years ago they brought up the minimum wage, then I'm just making slightly more than minimum wage as an all games dealer now because of like government, because of like how the economy has been, you know. And I don't want to. It's not the casino's fault that all of a sudden, like, you know, this happens with the wages, but it's hard to just kind of manage your you know, your life and your career and like your finances that way.
Yeah, the ownership structure of casinos is quite different now than it was 20 years ago or 25 years ago. It's corporations that really own the casinos now. And corporations are only there for the whim of their shareholders, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not making money, they're not in business anymore.
Whew, okay.
Look at all the problems Gateway Casinos is going through. When you have to go to the government and get a $600 million loan or guarantee or whatever they got for.
Yeah. So that's true. The texture of the business has changed drastically when the casinos were allowed to open. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Paul did have a question earlier. Sorry, I just wanted to touch on that because we're at an hour and 40 minutes. So I guess we're going over our 30 minutes again this week, John. But Paul asks, what year did the gaming numbers get implemented? How did they distribute? To existing employees. That's a good question. Do you know about that one?
I'm just looking at my little cheat sheet here. I have the history of gaming in Alberta.
I love how you're prepared. That's pretty awesome.
So that's something they probably wouldn't have talked about in here, but I seem to think that the numbers were quite old. I remember my original number was 924, and that was probably in the mid 70s, like 76, 75, where you had to have a registration number. So once they went to registered casino workers, that's when you got issued your number. So it's got to be mid 70s, like 74, 75.
Mm-hmm. Darren says
What?
everyone was 0 until he got his. Okay.
Are you telling us we're all zeros, Daryl?
What were you gonna say, John?
No, I was going to ask Wyatt, like, what does he, like, you know, talk about, like, you know, the gaming numbers. What's the lowest he knows of? Not gaming, like GMs, but like dealer-wise.
7. I think 7 was the lowest I knew.
7.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, what, 90,000 now or something crazy?
Yeah, oh yeah. Like, there's been so many people in and out of the industry, it just gets crazy. Yeah, I think 7 is the lowest I know. I love my badge number. My badge number when I was with the AGLC, it was badge number 013. I was unlucky 13.
Unlucky 13, that's cool. Yeah, mine was like when I started, like this was 2000. Mine was, I still remember it. It's like 14785. Was I mean, like even then I was like, man,
that's pretty high.
Yeah, I was like, man, you've had 15,000 people do this. It was like, oh, we'll get more, and it was like.
Here's a story when we were doing the first original training for dealers for the Palace Casino. We had a dealing school. We had a bunch of people come in and apply, and we had the AGLC ladies come in, and they were like registering people. And this one guy comes up to me and says, well, I'm not sure I can get a number because, like, I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, I have a criminal record charge against me from quite a few years ago. Well, like, you know, they're kind of, depending on what kind of charge it was, like, you know, they often, if it's like a financial crime or something like that, you won't get a number. I said, well, what was your charge? And he says, well, I'm a convicted rapist. And so he put his application in, and I went over to the ladies at the AGLC and says, would you mind not approving this guy even if he's available? And she said, he probably would have got through just with his crime because it was so long ago. But I said, I'd rather not have him employed here. So please don't give him his number. But it was nice of him to admit that he was actually a convicted rapist. But, you know, the staff is still probably 65% female in a casino, and it's just not a good environment to put someone like that in.
Whew.
Wow, that's an awkward situation.
Yeah, I've had a few awkward situations over the years, but
Okay, Wyatt, all right. Now you've opened up that can of worms. What is the most awkward situation you had?
let's see, the grossest thing that ever happened.
People want to know.
The grossest thing that ever happened to me in the casino industry is like, remember that first year I was telling you about standing outside on the old money wheel, spinning the wheel. This girl comes up and she's got no eye. She doesn't have her glass eye in, and it's like just a black kind of hole there, and it's like it was really hard not to stare at her, like, because it was just so kind of shocking to a 17-year-old kid to have somebody standing there with no eye, like just a black kind of. It was gross. I still remember that, and it still freaks me out.
It's that just reminded me of like a long time ago. I used to work for a company, and we worked on ships, right? And a guy came in, and I'm dealing craps. It was on the Norwegian. It was the Norway, SS Norway. It's a huge ship. It was an amazing ship to work on. It was so much fun. Anyway, this guy comes on, and he's that when they had that tracker.
Oh, the tracheotomy thing.
Yeah. And he had his big hole in his neck, and he had a mask like masks we have now, because it's so like that. And his thing, but it kept slipping, and I was dealing crafts to him, and I kept saying to the boxman, "I can see into his neck," and it was like. He was a nice guy, and he's like, and I was like, huh? And I just couldn't deal with it. It was just awful.
I've seen people smoking through those.
It was very tricky to try and deal to somebody. When I was like, I'm not supposed to see into somebody's body while I'm dealing. It's not right.
And going back to that old Sportex building that was hotter than hell for the casino, dealing roulette with the same guy that got sick. This girl comes in with a top on, and it was a bikini top. I understand that, but it was like about a dollar size hole or patch on each side with straps. And good old Jack says to me, gives me the old elbow and says, "Holy shit, look at her." And of course she could hear us. And he says, "What the hell is she even wearing that for? Like, you can see everything anyway." So she says, "Yeah, you're right." She was drunker than a skunk. So she whips her top off and playing topless roulette on. But those were the good old days. It just doesn't happen anymore. So of course security came over and took her away, and Jack was very disappointed. But I kind of was too. So.
Oh my God.
Poor Jack.
Got some comments here. Daryl. Yeah.
Right.
Roxanne.
No, it's just one eye, dear. Just one eye.
Roxanne says she had a dealer once false teeth fell onto the table.
That's kind of.
Oh
yeah.
my. Roxanne also says when she worked in cash, Joe was the GM. I think we talked about this on the thread.
Yeah, I think he had number one too. You're right.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Good old Joe Chapo.
I feel like when I started dealing, this is prestigious. It was true. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was. It was. We were all rock stars then.
Except Daryl.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Everyone, second best. Everyone was tied for first.
Yes.
We need to have John. We need to do a message of the segment. We need to award somebody something for that. That's pretty funny.
To be honest, Daryl heckles himself more than anybody else, or he does it before anybody else. He's very smart, Daryl. I got to give him that. For somebody that old, he's quick-witted.
Yeah, he's quick on the old draw there.
No, I love Daryl. He's awesome. I think he was as a dealer. I think he was amazing. Not his hands, but I mean how he dealt with him, the personality, and he was so good.
Oh, so cool. Let's see. What else? Selena says the standard for hiring was much different than now. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Both of you.
Yeah, I would agree with Selena. Like, we used to really kind of mull over who to hire. Now it's like if you've got 2 arms and 2 legs and you count to 21, like you're hired pretty well. But sometimes they don't even have the last capability. I used to joke that only the bad joke of why do men make better blackjack dealers than women? Because they have 21 digits to count, where women only have 20.
Oh God.
That's a really bad joke, and I apologize to everybody for that. But an old bad joke from an old days.
Paul says agree. It's also free training. So I think my opinion on this is that the market's saturated, and I don't think we see those university, because why you said you were in university. I was in university when I started. I don't think we see a lot of those kids come in now.
Because the hours aren't flexible anymore.
And again,
if you can't work the 12 to 6 shift or the 6 to 2 shift, forget it. We used to we even used to have dealers come in at 6 o'clock, 6 to 12. That was a shift in the casino. 6 to 12 was a great shift. Come in, work 6 hours, go home, and go back to studying.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they need to cater to the people who were really good before. Like you say, the students, there was tons of them when I worked in the Palace. And what about having, the only time I ever heard of it really was table tests on live games. Can they do that in Alberta? Or could you throw somebody in, okay, go deal? Or does it have to be on a dead game? Because I've never, in all the casinos that I ever tried to pull, I never had a audition on a live game.
No, I don't think you can do it because you have to be licensed to be on the game. So the only table test you could do would be in the break room with those sadistic fellow dealers back there trying to do all kinds of bad things to you while you're doing your table test.
Mm-hmm.
Let's split all these tens.
But it's hard to judge how somebody reacts to real people, in a real life situation, until you see them in a real life situation. Because we all faked it. I mean, I did tons of table tests, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really chat to all people. I mean, not often. Depends.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some people just phrase up front. Some people just don't have personality, an outgoing personality. They're very inwardly focused, and they're scared to talk to people. Where this is it gets back to, this is an entertainment industry. You have to be able to talk to people.
Honest to God, I mean, I think it really is like an open night on comedians. When he's Lars is amazing. He's practiced 10,000 hours to craft his skill, and he's amazing at it.
Yeah.
But at some point, he went out that one time and went, okay, I have to do this in front of real people and do this in front of real people. And it's the same with casinos, right? You practice as much as you want on a table where people are nice to you and go, oh yeah, John, you're really good. Well, actually, I'm shit. But I mean, then you go on and leave to deal with real people, and they go, they heckle me, and I'm like, maybe I'm not that good.
Well, some people have very thin skins too. They just can't take the customer comments, and I'm sure every one of us has been told to F off about 1,000 times in the casino, and I have been threatened to be killed so many times, and the guy I was telling you about crawling at Northgate Entertainment Center, Nels, he was an ex-veteran. He used to tell me, I've killed better men than you, when I was throwing him out all the time. Yeah, Nels, go ahead and go sleep it off. But he was a loan shark too. He was a bad person. He was a really nasty guy. He used to have this really big bodyguard, and apparently he used to break people's bones if they didn't pay him back. So the good old days.
This was the guy who used to crawl to the table?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I would have paid the bodyguard to carry me. What the heck going on there?
Well, he did that too a lot of times too. He'd carry him to the table, but
Oh boy.
yeah, there were some characters back in the old days, and I'm sure you guys have heard stories about Crazy Louise and some of the really old timers that were just personalities unto themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right. So just comment by Loretta here. Some people behind her. Lots of things need to be corrected. Hours, availability, wages, recognition, ongoing training. Why invest in your staff when they're very replaceable?
that's very true, Loretta. Like, people are very transient now, and it's just easier to hire somebody new than to invest any kind of effort or time into someone that has potential. Because it costs money to train people.
Man, I've had this argument for like the whole 19 years I was in casinos, and it drove me crazy. It's like, well, why should we train them? Because we can just hire somebody new. But then how are you going to keep that new person if you treat the same person and he's good, shitty, he will just leave and go somewhere else where they go, well, they treat me better over there. I'll just go work there. And it was like if a dealer is good, encourage them to be good and reward that behavior and create it. It was like, Henry Ford, he paid twice as much as the going rate, not because he wanted to, it's because he kept the best people.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to do these things, I mean, you need to reward and get the people. And I never understood. It was like, okay, you have an experienced dealer. He will make you more money because he deals fast and makes less mistakes. Then constantly going, well, I don't want to pay him $4 an hour more. Let him go. I'll pay this one half the much. But he makes twice as many mistakes.
Accountants don't understand that, though. All they look at it is like, you're spending X number on your wages. You've got to cut your wages by 10%. That's the stories I used to get, is like, you've got this budget for wages. You do whatever you want with it, but it just gets to the point where you can't keep the expensive people around, because I can have 3 really shitty dealers and pay them as much as a really good multi-game dealer. And they'll turn out as probably less hands, but they won't cost me as much in the wages. And that's what the accountants look at. How much are you spending?
Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was like, I understand. I mean, like, when I was in it for a long time, and I was like, well, I understand why they're doing it, because they're looking up the FTE price points and stuff like that, but they never understand it from a revenue perspective. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, dealer X makes X amount of money.
All they're concerned about, John, is ROI.
Oh yeah,
that's all. That's all. The only thing that they concern themselves with. So the least I have to invest and the more money I make back, the better I look for in my job. And I don't care about how you look in your job.
Yeah. Guys, in this discussion, I really think that all it takes is one casino to step up and be like, if everything that we've talked about, if one casino can resolve it, they could probably take the market. Because I mean, it doesn't seem like something that's too far out of reach. And I understand, like my time as a manager, I was always taught, it's like, well, labor has to be like 37% of your revenue, no higher than that, or 6% of your drop. We're always on formulas, but a lot of people didn't understand. It's like, it's about the people. It's about getting people in here, not about numbers and whatnot as well.
So the GM or the general manager or the executive directors or whatever they get called now, right now, probably they may have a gaming background or they might not, but they're the business runners, where the games manager is actually the runner of the casino games. And they're never the same person. Like, the business guy will always rule out, because it's the business, it's running a business. It's not running a casino. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It completely makes sense. And it's really hard, because it's hard to convince somebody like that what the problems are in your casino
Yeah.
when you're there. It's like I'm the one that's there on a Friday and Saturday night and dealing with
Yeah.
like, the
Yes.
busiest nights. How can you kind of tell me what's going on? So yeah, I've run into that. I remember that. So
Yeah.
I don't miss
It's
it.
a frustrating kind of blockade at the end of the day. Is like you can't run your business because the business manager won't let you run your business the way it should be run.
That's true. But even at a level of a games manager and your general manager has gaming background, but then it's the person above that person and then the person
Yeah.
above that. And it's always
Yeah.
like levels, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has a boss.
Yeah. Oh, holy smokes. So many comments. You guys are great. Paul has a quick question here. Tuxedos and bow ties were very classy.
Yes, they were. I always thought the black and whites looked so classy, but it all comes down to modern kind of casino wear. Like, it's not very practical. Some people's idea of a clean white shirt is not my idea of a clean white shirt. So
I had so much respect for the suits. I really loved those shirts that had the suits on the top. That was really cool. Really sharp. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Holy smokes. We just cracked 2 hours. That was really fast.
And it went by really fast. Just like this year has gone by, luckily fast, but painfully slow for some people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I think we'll all be glad to see 2020 gone.
I think a lot of us for sure. John, any final questions, comments for Wyatt?
Well, 2 things. One, thank you, Wyatt, for coming on. I never worked with you before. I've seen your comments before, and I really do appreciate you coming on. It was so cool to listen to the stories you have, which is it's really cool. So thank you for that. And the other
I
thing
like listening
is,
to your stories too.
I'll tell you some of the cool, the X-rated ones afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we're gonna come up there next year, and we have to do some kind of reunion. Like, I know we've kind of
for
talked
sure.
about it offline a little bit, and next year might not be the right year to do it, but we're definitely gonna have a reunion.
To be honest, like Jay's awesome, I think, and we've talked about this a lot. Like, we should have this big reunion because we all need it. And the other thing I just wanted to say is, because it's all about casino people, right? Is just a big shout out to people in Edmonton and all the casinos in Alberta that's shut down, and it's really tough right now. And coming up to Christmas, so
Yeah.
I really hope whoever you are, whatever you are, you're doing okay. And if you're not, just reach out to somebody. I'm sure.
Yeah. If you
Somebody
need
will
help,
you,
just
right?
ask. Like,
Yeah.
there's people around that can help you.
To be honest, one of the best things about the casino group that Jay started was this is a network of people that you've all worked with, and there's a lot of really, really cool people. And if you need something, just reach out.
Yeah, we've all shared the same problems, and so it's a family.
Yeah, absolutely. Selena. Yeah, much love.
Yes.
Wyatt, any final comments? There's so many people that wanted you on for many reasons, but definitely you have a lot of people that are backing you and totally remember you. And I love seeing the comments about you in our industry group there. Any messages you'd like to give to a bunch of the family there?
Just stay safe over the holidays. We're going to get through this lovely 2020 and the COVID battle, and everyone will be back working soon as the government needs the money. Got to pay for all those subsidies they're giving out. So, and we're looking forward to really getting together with everybody and sharing some laughs, and hopefully next year we can get together next summer and do something for the summer. I'd like to get together. Maybe a golf tournament or a barbecue or something. We can do something, or that ugly thing we talked about offline. So that's tentatively for 2022 now. So
I think so. It's not
I
that.
don't want to bring it up now, but because people don't have the resources to do that right now.
Yeah, I think I think that that's something that we definitely have on the radar, and it's something for sure that we'd love to do. So,
Yeah, that
okay.
place won't expect 50 or 100 ex casino workers all at the same time. So it'll be like they won't know what the hell hit them.
Yeah, I'll ship people too, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That'll be
And
amazing.
I really do want to have that contest of who can eat their dinner the fastest. That's it, there. That's it, Daryl.
Jeez, Daryl. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, come on. Shh.
Okay.
I'm talking.
So next, okay, I have to remind you, everybody that's on here, there's 12 of you still on. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining on. Like we're about to sign off here, but next week, make sure you join because we're giving away stuff. It's our Talking Craps 20th episode Christmas giveaway special, and that is next Wednesday, same time. And
Giving Mike away?
Oh yeah, we're giving him away.
Oh,
We've been trying, but nobody really wanted it. But I guess we'll just give some gift cards away. And Wyatt, thanks again so much for the support. Thank you for the top prize. We really appreciate the donations. It's nice to give back to the group. So I totally appreciate it.
Thanks, Wyatt. It's been great 71, and it was so cool. I mean, like 2 hours went by really fast, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't ask me very enough questions.
Yeah, but we'll get you on again, obviously. So, and it's so, thank you so much. And guys, thank you for joining in, and we hope you have a great night.
Thanks all.
All right.
See ya.